Welcome to Conquering Your Clownfish, a podcast dedicated to transforming disabilities into special abilities. I'm your host, Brady Murray. Welcome to the Conquering Your Clownfish podcast. I am excited to present our special guest today, Mya-Lisa Ludwig. Mya is a devoted wife, a mother of 4, a grandmother of 3, and a loving caregiver to her brother, Adam. She finds joy in witnessing Adam thrive, joking and smiling with her husband, and creating memories together. Mya and Adam are passionate advocates and undoubtedly the most enthusiastic Raiders fans you will ever come across. So, Mya, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is fantastic.
Yep, I'm super, super excited. And so I just have to put a huge shout out right now to all of our listeners to check out Mya's page, because you got to meet Adam and you have to see his amazing outfits that he is wearing. He is definitely the best dressed man that I know out there. I'm jealous.
I know. I mean, everywhere he goes, he gets complimented, and he comes home and he's like, they took pictures of me. They stopped me and said, cool outfit. Like, it gives him the biggest joy. He's so cute. And I love seeing him so happy about how he looks, you know?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So, Mya, you have a very special and very tender experience. You have a tender story that we're going to be able to explore today. And so I think it would only make sense for you to share with us really your introduction into Adam in your life and looking at growing up with him in your family as you guys were younger. Tell us a little bit about your siblings and what your family dynamic looked like in those early years.
Sure. So there are 6 of us. I'm the oldest. Adam is the second born. There's 3 girls, 3 boys. Growing up, we didn't treat him any different than the rest of us. We fought all the time. We harassed each other. And I remember fighting with him quite a bit when I was about 12. And then around 13, my parents just got sick of it. My dad says, "Okay, I'm done with this," and gave us boxing gloves. We just had one set, and he gave Adam one and me one. And we went outside, and all of us are all like surrounded. And it's me and Adam is into it. Like, he was going to take me down. And we were just going, and I'm watching him, and it occurs to me, and I had my hand on his head, and he's swinging. He just going. And I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to protect him. I don't need to fight with him, because it just registered in that moment that I needed to be his protector. And then shortly after that, at school and church events, people would try to make fun of him. And it just brought out this like fury in me. Like, I'm a small person, but I felt like I was just 7 feet tall, like, and just strong, and don't you mess with my brother, you know? But I remember that turning point when I was 13.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Number one, what a great idea by your dad. I might have to borrow that idea.
Yes.
But number 2, how beautiful of a turning point that was. And it's clear that from that moment, even until now, that has been a role that you have accepted, and not just accepted, but really taken a stewardship over.
Yes, all of my siblings are that way. When we're all together, when people are staring or looking at him or whatever, we just like, we just claim and protect him, and just know that he's ours and don't mess with him.
Yep, perfect. And so tell us about Adam. We'd love to learn about him and just his personality. Tell us about anything that you would like to share about Adam.
Adam, I always say this, he is a showman, and he's passionate about anything that he loves and enjoys, and he expresses that physically, emotionally. Like, his bedroom is exactly everything that he loves. When we were in high school, the coach, he was the equipment manager, and all the football players were my friends, and they protected him. And he has a great memory of high school. And he remembers, this is really cute, he was at a game, and all the cheerleaders protected him. And he was at a game, and he wanted to get the crowd all like revved up. And he reminds me of a wrestling character,
He does. That's
Yes. And he was like, this even made it on the news, but he had this rubber snake wrapped around him, a football helmet that he had cut all the pictures of girls that he thought were pretty. So they were all over his helmet, taped. And he was at the game and he was getting everybody like all excited at the game. And he had them sing, I think we will rock you or something. And it's just this highlight reel in his mind that he talks about all the time.
still today.
To this day, I mean, he will tell you the score of that game. It's amazing what he remembers. He remembers football scores of high school games, of old Raiders games, or any playoffs. But he won't remember personal things that happened last week. So it's because those weren't as important to him, But he's just, I picture him when he comes out of his room dressed like he's just got this wrestling track of him and how awesome he is. And his attire reflects that. And he just walks like a boss and thinks like a boss. And I mean, he's just a riot,
Yep.
He's just he's so much fun. I can't understand. I can't even imagine life without him.
Yeah.
He's changed our life. He started living with us March of 2022 when our parents moved to a medically forced to a skilled nursing facility. And ever since then, it's been just, he's been living his best life because it was a really difficult situation and it was really mentally difficult on him. A lot of sad times when my parents were sick.
So I'd like to explore that. When, we've done, I don't know how many episodes, roughly 30 episodes so far this year. And we oftentimes are interviewing caretakers. So parents, moms or dads of a child that has a disability that they're caring for. And oftentimes the thing that they express as their biggest fear or the thing that weighs on them the most is who's going to take care of my son or daughter when I am no longer able to. Yeah. And, this is a real life situation where your parents cared for Adam, in essence, for the bulk of his life, in fact, his life. And Adam was very much dependent on them. And it's not just a dependence on them for his health and well-being, but that's his mom and dad.
Yeah.
That's his mom and dad. And so I'll share an example where this just weighs on me so much. Every day when I come home from work, Nash and Coop, my boys that have Down syndrome, so Nash is 17, Coop's 12, give me this like hero's welcome. And they've been doing this forever. And it's like some days it's like running down the hallway, yelling, Dad, 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 and jumping in my arms and giving me a great big hug. And the reality is I know that they'll do that indefinitely. At least I hope that they'll do that indefinitely. Right. And I do think that they will, that they'll continue on. But there will come a day when Dad doesn't come home.
Yeah.
And the loss that one must feel. And so I if you could share with us how that was for the family and for Adam and what you did to prepare, because this is something that I'm sure you've talked about a lot over just the life and the many years in leading up to this, and you guys had a plan, etc. But share with us about that process and that transition.
So my parents came out October, November of 2014 for my grandson's blessing. And they've always lived in Bakersfield, California. And when they came, they felt really inspired to move here, which was a big deal. And by December 31st of 2014, they had moved here and we found a house 4 houses away from our house.
Wow.
So when there was an emergency, I could run barefoot to their house.
Yep.
And they said, we want to move here so you can take care of us. We know that we're at the end of our lives and our health is not well. And eventually I would take over for Adam. That was always the plan. There was never really even a conversation. I just always knew. I mean, we tried it in 99 to 2001. That didn't work out very well. Just I wasn't ready for it with my young children. But this time I was. So I was my parents' caregiver from that date until they passed this summer. But when Adam moved with us in March of 2022, it was it was such a burden lifted on all of us, because it's hard. I feel bad talking about. I feel a little bad just because my parents were struggling so much with their health, and they actually relied on Adam for help.
Wow.
And it was not a good situation for him because he's not in the position to be a caregiver, but he was getting them water and helping my dad out of bed if he fell, when he fell all the time. And Adam wasn't on a schedule, and he would be in the same clothes for like a week and wouldn't shower, and it was just not a good situation. In the last 6 months before my parents were medically forced to go into a nursing home, I just knew something had to happen because it was so bad, and Adam was begging to live with us, and my parents couldn't let go because they were not in a good headspace. They were sick as well, and they were trying to live on their own, and it just finally something just intervened, and things happened the way it should be. And once he moved in with us, his entire personality changed, and he was smiling, and he was genuinely happy, and he wasn't before. It was a big, and he is at his core, he is just a lover and just a caregiver, and he wants the best for everyone around us. And so he would take on that burden, and even though he wasn't mentally equipped for it, bless his heart, he did the best he can, because that is his mom and dad.
That's right. I appreciate your willingness to be so vulnerable about that. And that's a real life example, a very personal example of that transition that transpires. And as a caregiver, as a parent ages and gets to a place where they no longer can caregive any longer. And we professionally, professionally, I'm a chartered special needs consultant. I work with a lot of families to plan for this financially, legally, etc. And all too often I hear families that will, when I say, can you share with me a little bit in relation to your plan thus far? As we begin our work, they say, my plan is I need to live at least one day longer than my child. And I have heard that so many times.
Yeah.
And it's very warming of just my heart here for Adam, that yes, this was a difficult transition, but what a blessing this has turned into for him, because he's really singing the song that he's meant to sing right now. And so I do want to ask about that. From what I gather in following your content, he likes it. He's a showman, right?
Oh, he's living his best life, and he knows it.
He's living his best life.
He asks for something, and I'm like, let's get it. He looks at Amazon, and he just pulled out an outfit last night. I can't remember what it was, and he has such a unique style, and I'm like, let's buy it. So we bought it. So a new outfit is coming out soon. But I just don't say no to him. I feel like he struggled a long time. Our parents' health was bad since 2005 for my mom, and my dad got Parkinson's in 2009. It was really hard for him. And so I'm really grateful to my husband for being that support system, because a lot of spouses wouldn't be okay with the level of caregiving. Because I caregived for my parents for 10 years. And then I took on Adam, for the last 2.5 years. And he's been with our family since Adam was 15, 16 years old. He knows, he knew my parents when they were very young. We've been together 35 years. And so I give a lot of props to my husband for being that spouse that can understand and be that support system, because not a lot of people have that.
Yeah. Talk to me about the planning that went into this. And so, there's just a lot of conversations that needed to be had just in regard to Adam's care. So when did you actually broach that subject with Chris about the possibility of you guys becoming a caregiver?
That's what's interesting. It was never a conversation.
Hmm.
It just was always, we just always knew
Great.
that we were going to take care of him. My other siblings aren't in positions to do that. They have younger families and situations. And so it just was a no-brainer. It wasn't even a conversation. And my husband will say that even just now. He's like, I can't imagine life without Adam. He's just the light of our lives. And he's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. Like, he's a lot of work, but he is worth it. Because when he is smiling or he says some smart aleck remark to my husband, and that's because he feels comfortable to be himself. And that's what I want, because he didn't have that for a long time.
Yeah, most definitely. You can see that. You can sense that with Chris and Adam and that relationship that they have. It's a very fun relationship to be able to see, a very loving relationship to one another. Sure.
Yeah, I'm glad my husband can talk to Adam about sports, both of them. They can they'll just talk on, and I'm like, whoa, they're taken care of. Just such a unique, organic relationship.
Yeah. Something that we've referred to before on the show and just in other settings, that individuals that have special needs oftentimes it really is a superpower. And so it's something that has an ability to be able to allow us as individuals who don't have superpowers to just let our hair down, be ourselves. We know we're not being judged. We can just simply be our genuine selves, our true selves when we're around these individuals. We also say and have noted that these individuals have generational impact. And so I would love for you to share about Adam's relationship with his what would this be? He's an uncle to
He's a great uncle to my
nephew.
grandchildren.
Okay, yes, perfect. There you go.
So this has been, I've been just watching this over the last few years, and he woke up in the morning and he didn't have his boot on, and my grandchildren saw, because he has hip dysplasia, so one foot is shorter than the other. And so he tippy toes on the one, and my grandchildren asked why. And so we had this conversation. It was probably about 2 years ago. And they would have been the older two would have been 7 or 8. And they're like, oh, okay. And now they're 10 and 8, almost 9. And the little one is 6. And we have conversations on how Adam is special, and that his mental capacity, what he can understand. And honestly, organically, they already know. It's what my 10-year-old grandson especially. He's like, I just think Uncle Adam is just so cute, and he plays video games with him. And we've had a conversation, but also they are, I guess, how all of us are with him. They just are that way with him. My granddaughter, my youngest one, who's 6, took her a little bit longer to understand, because he can be really in your face and he treats them like little babies. But now she understands, now that she's a little bit older. So when I had them this summer, they walked in to help me wake him up, and it was just this really sweet moment. And I'm like, hey, it's my time to teach my grandchildren about their special uncle. Yep. And to see how it is to be around someone who's not like them, someone who's different, not to be scared, not to stare. And we've been in situations where kids that age have taken a phone to try to take pictures of his boots or whatever. And I've had to talk to them and just say, we're happy to take a picture with you. Let's be respectful. Yep. But because people are just scared of what they're not used to and what's not normal, you know?
That's right.
And so I appreciated that opportunity that I had this year because it was a big moment where they had emotionally, mentally, not emotionally, but mentally passed him.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. And what you'll find is these children, statistically speaking, will grow up, they will have families of their own, and there's a high likelihood that one of them will be entrusted with an individual that has
Yes.
special needs.
Yes.
And they will immediately in that moment refer back to their experience that they had with their uncle Adam. And through your work and the amazing work that you're doing with Adam, and through just that special superpower that he has,
Yes.
that moment will be less scary. It's still going to be scary for them, but it will be less scary, and it will create comfort knowing that we can do this, like we can do this, and that this ultimately is a blessing. And so I just love what you're doing with that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I feel honored to be in this situation. I had no idea how much work it was when I first got him. I didn't realize what I was in for because he was just my brother and he needed some things. But when it came down to it, I was like, oh, he needs a whole day planned and
Yep.
organized and structured. And he doesn't do well when there's no structure at all. And sometimes he doesn't understand why he has to wake up. So I have to explain because we wake up because that's what we do. We wake up and we do stuff. And we're
Yep.
going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to get dressed. We're going to shower. And makes him feel important when he's accomplished these things. Even though it seems small for us, these are big things for him.
Yep. So I'd love to be able to explore now, Adam, as you had shared, he's living his best life right now, and I totally agree with that. I would love to hear your vision. And so, in fact, I want to take just a step back. You just lost your parents this summer, and I know how much you adored your parents and how wonderful a life that you guys had together. And so there is a lot of emotion and a lot of reflection that has transpired in your life as you look at legacy, as you look at just carrying that legacy forward for them and in their name and in respect and love and admiration for them. And with this new responsibility, relatively new responsibility with being a caregiver for Adam, right now is a season of reflection in your life. And so I would love for you to share about looking forward and what you envision and what you vision for, or what you envision for you, your family, for Adam, and really what are those songs that you'd love to sing in this next chapter?
So our parents passed this summer, just 5 weeks from each other, and it was a roller coaster. And after it all happened, and you are trying to pull all those pieces together and what these things mean, and I'm still processing everything that happened and still trying to figure out what that looks like. So, but at the same context, I had been caregiving for my parents for a long time, and they weren't my mom and dad in that sense as parents. They weren't parental in that aspect for a long time. So I had mourned that parent-child relationship quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so I feel, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to turn off phone calls, but
Hey.
I lost my train of thought. But
Well, I actually would like to bring you back to you had mourned that loss of your parents as parents, and you had transitioned roles and responsibilities into being a caregiver, which for me, I have actually not processed that before, contemplated that before. That must have been incredibly difficult.
It was hard because my mom February of 2020 had a stroke, and I had to give her insulin 3 times a day for 2 years. And she would run away from me. I would have to just hunt her down to give her insulin, like kind of thing. And she would just run the streets, and it was difficult. And she would be angry with me that I was in this position And I know she was angry that she was in the position she was, that she couldn't take care of herself. And I see that
Yeah.
now. But I had to I had to have no emotion with it because of the anger that she would have. And she was just mainly angry at life. It wasn't me. But to protect myself, I had to put this shield up. And same with my father, I mean, he would just be out in the yard, working, and my neighbors would say, your dad's is laying on the ground, and he'd be laying there for like an hour or whatever. And this would happen all the time. And there was no common sense. And it's just because they didn't want to stop being who they were. And so I understood that. But I also had to constantly talk to them as a parent, like, okay, these aren't good decisions. We need to do this so we're in a safe place, safe environment. And then later, towards the last 6 months before they really were medically forced to go into skilled nursing because I couldn't get them there. They would not go. And I just waited for this break. And again, it was 4 weeks from each other. My mom went in, and then 4 weeks later, my dad went in. So that was such a blessing. But I was already had been prepared for it for quite a while, for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And then they were at the skilled nursing facility for about 2.5 years. And my mom passed June 21st this year, and my dad July 28th of this year, and they had a joint funeral. It was really beautiful, and it was painful, but it was beautiful and traumatic and shocking. I mean, there's so many adjectives to describe that
Most definitely.
whole thing, and I still can't wrap my head around it. And it's wild. There's moments in the day where I'm like, I just can't believe they're gone, even though they had been gone for a while. But it's different when they're gone. It's
and then for it to be consecutive like that and so close together.
Yeah, a blessing. Obviously a blessing, but it did still take me by surprise, even though I'm watching it and I'm there like twice a day, every day, and I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going, but his words aren't matching what his body is saying. He's talking, bring me some tacos, but he's on a feeding tube, so he tried sneaking in crushed up tacos from a taco stand. And, and it was just kind of a wild emotional journey. But when my father passed, I was able to finally mourn my mom. Yeah. And I was able to be that little girl again, because I hadn't been his little girl for a long time. And when he passed away, I was all by myself. And I just became grateful for this moment, because I have been kind of hard on myself for not being there when he passed away, because I was there 2 times a day, every day, since he had never been alone since my mother passed. And I was a little upset with myself for making a lunch. Had I not made a lunch, I could have been there. But him already passing before I got there, because he had passed just 10 minutes prior, because the nurse had checked him. And I just became grateful for that moment that I could just curl in his arms and be his little girl, Yeah.
I actually read that post, and it was a very heartfelt and very genuine post. And so I can see why you would feel that initial guilt of not being there when he passed.
Yeah.
But what a blessing that turned out to be for you specifically, to get to be Daddy's little girl.
Yeah. I feel like my mom just came down and is like, okay, Leonard, let's go. Let's give Maya a break.
Making heaven blush.
Yes, let's go make heaven blush. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
In closing, I want to read something that you wrote in the preparation for this. And so we had asked you a question: what is one thing that you want the world to know about Adam? And this is what you wrote. You said, Adam is filled with so much love, understanding, and forgiveness. I want him to receive what he puts into the world. He is a non-judgmental soul surrounded by people who judge a book by its cover or fear of someone different. I want people to see past the cover. And I want you to know, in just my opinion, how amazing of a person you are and what a blessing you are to your family.
Thank you.
There is a significant responsibility that comes on caregivers, and you have been working triple duty for a long time. And you have not only accomplished that, but you've succeeded at a very, very high level in being able to give these individuals such a special way of life and part of
Thank
life.
you.
And so that, as I have referenced, we've talked about Adam's superpowers, but it's very clear and apparent to me that that is your superpower as well, as you truly are a caregiver and a nurturer at heart. And so I know for me today, this has been super inspiring, as it has raised the bar on my vision of what's possible as a caregiver. And I know that our listeners have also felt that as well. So Mya, thank you for being a guest on this show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all those kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And until next time.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conquering Your Clownfish. If you liked what we discussed on the podcast today and want to continue the conversation, please visit us at conqueringyourclownfish.com. And please don't forget to subscribe.